Picture yourself crouched over a rusted-out 1975 Honda CB550 in a cold garage. The smell of old oil and metal hits you before you even reach for the first bolt. The seat is cracked, the tank is dented, the engine hasn't fired in 23 years. Most people would walk past it at a junk sale without a second glance. You bought it anyway. This moment, right here, tells us everything about a very specific kind of human mind, because the people who restore old motorcycles aren't just fixing machines, they're engaged in something far deeper, something that reveals profound truths about human psychology, identity, and what we need to feel alive. Every rusted bolt they turn, every wire they trace, every engine they coax back to life, it all speaks volumes about who they are. Let's start with something most people don't realize. Motorcycle restoration attracts a remarkably specific personality type, and it isn't the type you'd expect. These aren't reckless thrill seekers. Research in personality psychology consistently shows that dedicated restorers score extraordinarily high in conscientiousness. They are systematic, patient, and almost stubbornly precise. When a problem resists them for weeks, they don't walk away, they go deeper. Think about what the work actually demands. You might spend 2 months hunting down the correct carburetor jets for a vintage Triumph Bonneville, another 6 weeks fabricating a bracket that hasn't been manufactured since 1978, one afternoon diagnosing an electrical fault with no wiring diagram, no forums, no help, just logic and feel. This is not a pastime for people who need instant results. It selects for a psychological makeup that finds genuine satisfaction in incremental, invisible progress. In a culture built around same-day delivery and on-demand everything, these individuals are operating on a completely different frequency. There's also something deeply therapeutic happening in those garages, and the science behind it is fascinating. When you're rebuilding a carburetor or chasing a short circuit through a rat's nest of 1960s wiring, your mind enters a state psychologists describe as remarkably close to meditation. Deadlines disappear, anxieties about money, relationships, the future, all of it dissolves. There is only the problem in front of you and your hands working toward a solution. Psychologists call this flow state. The Hungarian researcher Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi spent decades studying it and found something counterintuitive. People report their highest moments of happiness not during rest or leisure, but during difficult, absorbing challenges that sit just at the edge of their current skill level. Motorcycle restoration delivers this in near-perfect doses. The challenges are real enough to fully engage the mind. The skills are learnable enough to keep frustration from becoming defeat. That combination is rare. Most hobbies simply don't hit that window. Now, here's where it gets really interesting and a little unexpected. Many restorers report that working on a motorcycle helps them process things that are otherwise almost impossible to process. Grief, career collapse, the slow erosion of a relationship. Someone who lost their father might spend the year restoring the same model the old man rode. A person facing a health diagnosis pours their fear and energy into something they can fix, something they can control, something that rewards effort in a way the body simply won't. There's a concept in psychology called object relations theory. It proposes that humans transfer deep emotional meaning onto physical objects, using them as a kind of safe container for feelings too large or too raw for direct confrontation. A motorcycle becomes that container. It doesn't judge you for crying over a seized engine at midnight. It doesn't leave. It just waits for you to figure it out. Unlike almost every other arena in modern life, the bike has no agenda. It simply responds to your effort, honestly and without politics. Let's talk about control for a moment. Modern life is relentlessly unpredictable. Economic instability, algorithmic feeds designed to keep you reactive, careers that feel increasingly abstract and fragile. Most people move through their days feeling like passengers in someone else's vehicle. So where do you find solid ground? For restorers, the answer sits in the garage on a center stand. A restoration project is one of the last remaining spaces in modern life where every decision is genuinely yours. Original paint or custom, matching numbers or better parts, period correct or built to ride. Nobody overrules you. The project cannot be restructured from above or disrupted by a software update. You set the terms, you do the work, you live with the outcome. Research consistently links perceived autonomy and environmental control to psychological well-being and life satisfaction. When you complete a restoration, you've built something real with your own hands, a physical, undeniable proof of competence in a world where competence increasingly happens invisibly, inside screens. There is no ambiguity about whether you succeeded. The engine either runs or it doesn't. The social dimension of this world is equally compelling and radically different from conventional social structures. Motorcycle restoration communities are tight-knit, highly knowledge-driven, and operate on a completely different status hierarchy than mainstream culture. Wealth doesn't buy respect here. Job titles are irrelevant. What earns standing is skill, knowledge, and the willingness to help someone else through a problem you've already solved. Anthropologists who study hobbyist communities note that these groups develop their own culture, vocabulary, and ritual. A first-time restorer is welcomed not as a consumer, but as an apprentice. Knowledge passes through the community organically, informally, generationally. That structure satisfies something modern institutions have largely stopped providing, a sense of meaningful belonging earned through genuine contribution. Consider also what it means to bring a motorcycle back from 40 or 50 years of silence. Humans are uniquely burdened by the awareness of our own mortality. This awareness shapes more of our behavior than we typically admit. We want to matter. We want to leave something behind that outlasts us. Classic motorcycle restoration offers a quietly powerful answer to that need. When you return a 1968 BSA to running condition, you are ensuring it survives another generation. Your children might ride it. A museum might display it. A stranger at a show 30 years from now might circle it slowly and feel something they can't quite name. Psychologists call this impulse generativity, the drive to contribute something meaningful to people and times beyond our own. Developmental psychology identifies it as a hallmark of healthy adult maturity. A restored motorcycle is generativity you can kickstart. Standing back the first time a restored engine fires after years of silence must be an extraordinary moment. All those months of cold mornings and skinned knuckles suddenly compressed into a single sound. But here's the curious thing. Talk to serious restorers about finishing a project, and many will describe something unexpected, a quiet hollowness, a restlessness they didn't anticipate. The finished motorcycle is beautiful, the pride is real, but the purpose that got them out of bed every morning for a year, that's gone. This is why dedicated restorers almost never stop at one. They aren't chasing the finished machine, they're chasing the process, the daily meaning, the absorbing problem, the incremental progress that turns out to be the actual point all along. The motorcycle was never really the destination. The people who restore old motorcycles are quietly teaching us something valuable, something most of us have forgotten or never learned. They show us that satisfaction lives in the difficulty, not the finish line. That connection to what came before enriches who we are right now. That working with our hands feeds something in us that screens and comfort simply cannot reach. That identity built through skill is sturdier than identity built through consumption. They remind us that patience still matters, that some things worth having cannot be rushed, optimized, or outsourced, that sometimes the right response to a broken thing is to sit with it, understand it, and bring it back, not because it's efficient, but but because it means something. Next time you see a beautifully restored motorcycle, gleaming at a show or rumbling through traffic, understand what you're actually looking at. Thousands of hours of solitary, stubborn, searching human effort. Someone who needed to build something real. That's not just a motorcycle. That's a human story about what we reach for when the world stops making sense.